Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sponsor Spotlight with the Essendon Royals, where today I'm delighted to be joined by Nikki and Laura from Insight Body and Mind, our prestigious women's sponsor. We're very excited to be talking to you guys today. Welcome, Laura and Nikki.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so Insight Body and Mind have been long-term supporters of Essendon Royals, and today is a great chance for us to, showcase to the members what's on offer at Insight and learn a bit more, about the holistic approach to health that Insight really offers members. Nikki, I know you look after sort of a lot of the studio stuff at Insight. You've got the, relatively still newish studio on Buckley Street. It's a beautiful space. Very Instagrammable. Everyone loves taking the photos of the stairs and all that sort of stuff. Can you talk to us a bit about the sort of different classes you guys offer at Insight?
Yep, sure. So we've been running now for 3 years, the studio aspect, but Insight Psychology has been running for 17. Mm-hmm. So it is a whole holistic business, but the studio side of it is relatively more new, that body side of it. Originally, it was more of that mind sort of focus, but then we've moved into the whole body and mind as a holistic practice. It is a beautiful studio. It was designed by Biosol. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's kind of like a renowned architect. So it's stunning. Everyone who ever walks in for the first time, absolutely love it. It literally is a part of the same building as Insight Psychology. Yep. So it's 3 stories. The base we have psychology, and then on the middle ground we have Hot Mat Pilates, and then on the top we have Reformer Pilates.
Yeah, and I feel like Pilates has really exploded over the last couple of years. Super popular. What makes it such a sort of popular modality for fitness and strength at the moment?
Yeah, it is. I have seen it more popularized since COVID. I feel I've been teaching for about 12 years, so a long time. Back when I first started, literally nobody even knew what Pilates was. Everybody thought it was sort of yoga, and I'd just be like, yeah, whatever. Can't be bothered explaining it, but yeah. But since I feel like maybe in COVID, everyone was doing home workouts and people become more across that kind of Pilates style workout. And then when we come out of lockdown, people wanted to try it, and it's just become so popular. There are studios everywhere, and everyone seems to have done Pilates. So we've come a long way in the past decade. It's just amazing because it is really complementary to a lot of other style of, workout or fitness. It's very, it's basically accessible for everybody, but it is really good for athletes specifically. Because there's so many different sort of movements that require more intricacy of the muscles and flexibility and breath and just kind of all of the principles that Pilates encompasses. Yep. So it's just a really good, it couples really well with that kind of typical compound strength training. Sure. So I feel like people really kind of, gravitate towards it, and it's also low impact. So it's again accessible to a lot more people than maybe a CrossFit style sort of workout. Yeah.
And Laura, you're obviously a newer addition to the Insight team.
Yes.
But you're no stranger to the Royals. I know you've been involved with our senior women team for quite a while now. Yeah. Can you just talk to the sort of role you have at Insight, and in particular what you do in the clinical Pilates space?
Yeah. So I've been with the Royals for 2 seasons now, and started with the MPLW last season, which was a fantastic experience, and we managed to make it all the way up to just one shy of the grand final. So, I think stepping into the club, it was a real family-based atmosphere. It just felt so supportive and so community-based. And then I guess when the opportunity arose to join one of the major club sponsors as an osteopath. So I'm an osteopath by trade, but I've also worked as a strength and conditioning coach for a really long time, which is how I got involved. I think the opportunity to kind of marry those two together was a really amazing opportunity for me. Just to be able to, I guess, provide our athletes the best kind of practice service that we can. And so as an osteopath, I'm trained in clinical Pilates, where I can complement, exactly like Nikki was saying, complement the work that we do on field with some of the work that we do off field. So clinical Pilates is a little bit more tailored to the individual. It can be, we will usually do an assessment and identify areas of weakness that an individual might need to work on. And then we can tailor the exercises that we do in our sessions together so that it is specific for you and it is identifying or working on your individual areas of improvement.
Yeah.
And for athletes, that might be things like maybe it's their lumbo-pelvic control, maybe they need a little bit more single leg stability. So
Mm.
I think that's where it really complements the kind of training that we do.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, I think also just encouraging a little bit of that mind-body connection, which is something that Insight is so passionate about,
Yeah.
is just making sure that we are looking after ourselves in all aspects of our well-being. And so Pilates is also a really good recovery modality for the athletes, particularly if they don't feel like they can do a strength workout after they've played a game. Obviously, it's pretty intense. So we do, again, we can tailor the kind of exercises that we do so that they are more recovery based, so that we are focusing on things like mobility and, their balance and coordination, and also just working on a little bit of that nervous system kind of reset and just kind of getting them down from the intensity of the game and just letting them relax so that they are fresh and ready to go for the week ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously can play a great role for athletes, but also for the mums and dads, Nikki. I think, the sort of classwork you do would be great for a lot of us are working sort of sedentary jobs. We're sitting a lot. Can you talk to, I guess, the role Pilates can play and particular sort of classes you sort of offer insight to those who do work those more sedentary jobs and are looking for something sort of low impact just to get them moving and a bit more flexible, maybe a bit more mobility in their life?
Yeah, so like I said, this is why I love Pilates, is because it's so accessible to everybody. I have, had like professional athletes, and I've had, really sort of elderly people. It's just really accessible to so many different people, and there's just so many different ways that you can kind of like, come about a Pilates practice. I think that specifically for, someone who's a little bit more sedentary, it's amazing. I mean, I think any type of movement is really amazing, but I think Pilates specifically is really good because, like I did say, it is low impact, but you still get a really good result even with that, sort of low impact approach.
Yep.
I mean, I could kind of go on about it like all day. It kind of targets everything, and it also, weaves in those elements of flexibility and, stamina and core control. I think that's really, really important. We've lost a lot of core control, just by the way that we work. Like a lot of people will just get up and they'll sit, maybe like 12 hours in front of a laptop if they've got a really like full on job, and they don't, they don't sort of do any movement, and then they end up having like back problems is a really typical sort of issue that the society sort of faces, and a lot of the times it just comes from weakness, and the way that we could is strength goes a really long way, and it's really focused on a lot of core control and core stability and strength. That's kind of where like the whole thing sort of stems from. So I could just talk about it all day, really. I think it's so good for everybody.
Yeah, awesome. And can you talk to me a little bit about the different types of Pilates classes that are on offer in Insight?
Yep.
And maybe what's, the best starting point for someone who's never done a Pilates class before, and then how they might progress through the different classes?
Sure. We've got a couple of different styles of reformer. So we've got like a base for reformer foundations, which is kind of typically where we would sort of encourage people to start. And then we move into reformer flow and reformer cardio, and that's like a little bit more of an open sort of style. So that's kind of like your typical reformer class where we would do a little bit of everything, basically hit all of the body parts in one particular workout. We also have Hot Mat Pilates. So I don't know if you've like heard anything about that, but it's basically mat Pilates, and you do it within an infrared sauna. So we've got one of our Pilates rooms, and there's all panels on the roof of infrared. So I don't know if you know much about infrared saunas, but they're very they have like a whole bunch of different sort of benefits. One of them is like detoxification and muscle recovery, and there's a lot. Obviously, you get more of a sweat on as well. So you just like you feel really good afterwards. You feel really accomplished. So you're basically doing a mat-based workout. So it's still quite a tough workout within the heat. That one is probably not so beginner friendly because it is, you've got the element of exercise plus heat. So we do have non-heated mat classes, which is typically where I sort of tell people to sort of start because they just have the element of the Pilates class. And then once they kind of get a bit of a handle on that, then they can maybe introduce the heat with the heated Pilates. But they're really popular, especially in winter. I mean, there's nothing nicer than waking up and going into like a 38-degree room when it's like 0 degrees outside. It's actually so nice. And then we have yoga, and we also have bar as well. So bar is like it's ballet-esque, but it is still mat Pilates based, and you don't have to have danced before to do it, but it is really good. There's like a bit of like rhythmic sort of movements in it. It's just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have the yoga modality as well, which is, really good for recovery and more flexibility. It's a little bit slower. We also have a restore class, which is another like yoga
Okay.
modality. And it's kind of like a yin class. I don't know if you've ever done that, but the poses are very slow and you hold them for a long time. And it's just more about like getting back into that, getting out of that like fight or flight stage and into that calm sort of nervous system state. So we've kind of got like everything, depending on how you feel on the day. Like you've got a lot of different options and yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And the clinical Pilates side is more if you're maybe dealing with something in particular, like what would sort of prompt you to do a one-on-one sort of clinical setting versus this more class-based stuff?
Yeah, so you don't have to have an injury to do a clinical Pilates class.
Yep.
It might just be that for you, you've got individual areas that you want to work on, and that's where, because it is a little bit more tailored and it is one-on-one, you have the opportunity to work exclusively with myself as a practitioner or one of the other practitioners, and we can just take the time to really make sure that you're going through all of the exercises with proper technique.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, I'm working with a lot of new mums who are looking to get back into exercise after giving birth.
Yep.
And so for them, they just don't quite feel comfortable stepping into a group class where they don't have the opportunity to have as much one-on-one attention. And, they want to look after their bodies as much as possible and make sure that they're doing everything right. So that's where maybe going into a one-on-one or a one-on-two might be more beneficial for them, just so that they can take their time. We can slowly progress the exercises based on how they're feeling, and it is a little bit more slower paced as opposed to a group class where obviously in the group class they really want to hit a lot of kind of body target areas, whereas in the clinical Pilates it might be that for you it's fully low body based, or it might be a little bit of low body and a little bit of upper body, and like I said, it just depends on that initial assessment where we identify those areas of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can, like I said, tailor it to your individual needs. Lots of mums with their new bubs stepping back into it. But then you also do get a couple of those older clients who are just looking to introduce a little bit more, like we said, low impact activity into their day, just to, bulletproof themselves for the future. And then I've also done 1-on-2 classes with the soccer girls where for them it might be a little bit more recovery focused, or, priming them for their game ahead of the weekend. So that's where I guess clinical Pilates is really a wonderful opportunity to tailor it based on what you feel like you need. But then it doesn't need to be an injury-based thing. I know that the clinical side makes it seem like, oh, I've got to have an injury.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity for you to work exclusively with a practitioner one-on-one or one-on-two, and just get that really individualized, targeted, focused workout based on, what your needs are.
Perfect. And Nikki, maybe can you talk to me around memberships at Insight? Like how, if someone wants to get involved, do you just purchase a pass for a class, or do you need the full membership? Like what's the sort of best way to get involved?
So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can attend. We do have the membership, which is going to be the best bang for your buck because you can attend, it's an unlimited membership. So you can attend, like as many times as you want. If you're coming and doing, a morning class and then you want to come in the evening and do like a yin class before bed, you can do that. So you can come as many times as you like. So that's what we usually sort of encourage people to do, and you have access, like all access across the whole studio. But we do have casual options as well. So obviously if you are, brand new and you haven't tried us before, you can come casually. We do have an intro offer, which is 5 sessions for $55, and you've got 2 weeks to use it. So that's like sort of a pretty good stepping stone because you can use it across any of the classes.
Okay.
So that's a usually good place where we tell people to start because you can, it's good value and you can try all the different classes. But we do have like monthly packs, 10 packs. So if you're not able to commit to a membership because maybe if you train, elsewhere and this is more of a complimentary sort of thing, you could purchase like a 5, 10, 20 pack, whatever. And then those have pretty long expiries. So you can just, come once or twice a week or whatever suits you.
So the packs, you're buying the number of classes, but you can use those across.
Exactly.
As long as they're not booked out, obviously.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. But there's like a lot of different, it kind of depends on the person. Like usually, if someone's new, they'll come to me and say, hey, you know, this is my goal. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing. And I'll kind of like sort of tailor and say to them, okay, like it sounds like, you know, you want to train maybe just like once a week, or maybe you sound like, you know, you need to be working up to training 5 days a week or something. And then I'll kind of like tailor the option to them. So yeah, I'm always here to help.
Perfect. And do they just come into the studio? Do they call? How do you want them to get in touch?
You can come into the studio, more than welcome to, but you know, emailing, calling us is probably like the easiest way.
Too easy.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in and sharing a bit more about Insight. And thank you, as always, for the wonderful support you offer the club, and in particular our women's program, which is super important to us. So, yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out Insight Body and Mind on Buckley Street in Aberfeldie for all your psychology and Pilates and clinical Pilates needs.